Vivek Menon, there are those who, the government of the day, particularly in the last 10 years, has spoken a lot about smart cities. Sanctioned projects in smart cities, number is 8,013, cost 1,64,000 crores being spent on smart cities. When I look at what is happening around me, I wonder whether even if the national capital is sinking, what happens to these other smart cities? Completed projects number is 7,167, cost 1,43,000 crores. Ongoing projects number 846, cost again 20,200 crores. This is as per Urban Ministry. Do you see any of these cities being smart cities at all when they cannot ensure basic drainage facilities?
Absolutely. I think, Rajiv, Rajdeep, there's a lot of money that's actually going down the drain, and in the literal sense. We here in Bangalore, are not new to any rains and flooding. We've had this over the past, 5 years, and in the past 2 years, we've had some significant flooding. I think there are solutions for this. I think the lack of engineering, lack of proper engineering is where the problem lies. Most of our cities have exploded over the past 15 to 20 years. These 2 decades have seen significant growth. And with that growth, obviously, there are a lot of areas that are being paved off. There are a lot of apartments that are coming in places of villas. And so there's a lot of sheet flow that comes off from all of these areas. Unfortunately, what we've done is we've gone ahead and closed up most of our lakes. We have converted lake beds into layouts. That's a significant problem that we find here in Bangalore. And so there's nowhere for this water to go. Now, I can understand cities like Mumbai, which probably are at sea level, and there are various other challenges. But when it comes to Bangalore, there should be no reason why there should be flooding. Now, the unfortunate part about smart cities is that smart has been kind of defined as, connectivity, internet connectivity, it's everything to do with IT, it's everything to do with AI. But the ground reality is that the ground infrastructure has not kept up with it. We have not updated any of our cities. And, thanks to our forefathers like, M. Vishweshwaraya, Lutyens and others, they planned our cities exceptionally well. So we did inherit cities that were well planned. But in the past 2 to 2.5 decades, when our cities have actually exploded, we have failed to invest in infrastructure. And I think while we have spent a lot of money, budgets have been made, there's been so much of leakage in the system that ground infrastructure just doesn't match up to it. Here in Bangalore, we created something called Tender Sure, Specifications for Urban Road Engineering. And we introduced a complete chapter in there about flood mitigation and water securitization. Now, flood mitigation is something that can be very easily solved if we were to actually do the analysis and create detention facilities. Even in Mumbai, if you had detention facilities, it could be lakes, it could be, large underground facilities that are able to take the water during the maximum flood. That's, during the peak rainfall, you need to be able to trap that water, hold it, and then release it back into the streams and other infrastructure. So I think there's a complete lack of planning. The comprehensive development plan that we actually created in Bangalore is probably just sitting on the shelves. We don't have any GIS mapping of all of our drainage systems and all of our utilities. So this problem is only going to compound itself unless we come up with some kind of a national rejuvenation mission. This is to rebuild India and rebuild India's urban infrastructure. So I think that's something that we really need to focus on. There are solutions. There are umpteen number of solutions.
I'll come to those solutions one by one to each of you. But Jaya, Dhindo, when I look at Delhi in particular, when I look at the figures, it is India's fastest growing city, the entire NCR, Gurugram, Noida, Delhi. And it appears that a city can only take so much. It appears to me, and again, as someone who's observed Delhi, that the city has simply exploded out of control and there is no governance model in place. Do you believe a city like Delhi with NCR exploding on its sides needs a special governance model that will focus on these local issues that many of you have highlighted already?
Absolutely, Rashdeep. I think more than the governance model, right? In the case of Delhi, it's 4 things coming together. It's ways in which we've built the materiality, where we've built the legacy sort of infrastructure, which is close to like 75, 80 years old and needs upgradation and replacement. And then just general mismanagement of resources, right? So to fix all of that, you definitely need a governance structure which can keep pace with all of this. Also, to give you a figure, over the last couple of decades, 66% of the new growth in Delhi has happened in areas with really high recharge potential. So what that means is you shut down blue-green infrastructure, which had the natural porosity to kind of absorb some of this water, and you built on top of it. So you've concretized the city. And this is sort of inevitable, right? The other thing is the finances and the kind of money that our urban local bodies have. The urban local body revenues in India are less than 1% of the total GDP, right? Compare that with 6% and 7%, 5% in other developing countries, including Africa, right? And that's the state. And cities are contributing 70% of the GDP, right? So that's how cash and resource strapped our cities are. So given these constraints, it's very hard to think about how can you plan better, how can you manage better, how can you conserve and resource our cities better.
You know, because Mr. Ghorpade, taking off from that, Mumbai Municipal Corporation is one of the richest civic bodies in the country, but it's been accused in the past of misusing that money. That money is used not for transforming the drainage system of the country, but it lines up the pockets of councillors, or they put it in projects where they get a cut. Is that something that worries you, that the corruption at urban governance is so high that even urban bodies which are cash rich, like the Bombay Municipal Corporation, have been unable to tackle the crisis of drainage? Without getting drainage in place in a city like Mumbai, you're asking for trouble every year.
I think in case of Mumbai, one has to look at it that there are multiple agencies which are involved in providing the basic infrastructure itself. Let's say roads or metros or railways or even the airports, and the way it is being built up, or including the real estate, which is fully driven by the private sector. I think one has to look at it in a holistic way rather than in a isolated way, with saying that whether a corporation or an urban local body is right or wrong, I would put it that way, or being corrupt or non-corrupt. I am looking at from overall city management perspective, that one has to look at it, the aging infrastructure and the expanding areas and the design perspectives, whether the stormwater drains which are being now created, whether you need a bioswales kind of a thing wherein water absorption capacities are much better, or you are looking for a box drain kind of a culture wherein water absorption either on the ground or on the sides is very low. I think it is an overall kind of perspective which needs to be taken, rather than saying that this is right and this is wrong and this is what is happening.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't come across something to say, but I would look at it as an urban planner more onto the design perspective.
Yeah, but you see, the fact, Mr. Ghorpade, is every year the BMC carries out the desilting of minor and major nallas along the sort of Mithi river. The civic body allots crores of money. Does it go to where it should go? I'm asking a direct question. Does money which is meant for the purpose which it is allocated for desilting of nallas, ensuring that there is no major waterlogging, does it go into the right causes or not, in your view?
Yeah, I am looking at from this angle, that whether the capital investment versus the maintenance management, that is what we are looking at. On one hand, desilting is more of a maintenance issue which is going to be continuous, and whereas the filling and the continuous siltation which goes on across Mumbai, if one looks at it, and finally Mithi is one of the 5 rivers wherein you are able to kind of desilt, let the water flow out. I think that is what is required, and the amount of muck which goes in. We have created, kind of systems
but does the money go where it is meant for? Can me as a taxpayer citizen be assured that the money which is allotted for desilting goes there? Or does it line up the pockets of councillors and bureaucrats?
I think in that case, one would look at whether there is a public audit which needs to be carried out, and we go ahead and find out.
Yeah, but that hasn't, you see, that's the problem. There were various recommendations after the 2005 deluge. Many of those recommendations have not been pushed ahead.